I mean, I'm a bit of a techie. I was a bit naive when I was young, or rather, a bit stupid. At the time, I knew that the dark web was this magical place where all the illegal transactions on the internet took place. On the surface network, I knew it was boring stuff like social media and flash games. So he wanted to see what other people didn't see, and he started researching and figuring out how to do that. I went on the dark web a couple of times, not to do illegal things, not to make illegal purchases, but to see what I could do without breaking the law. The first time I went on the dark web, as I said before, it was a long time ago. It was before Bitcoin was so popular, before it had the value it has now. I was still a kid and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. My personal adventure with the dark web actually started with this cryptocurrency. Most things like Bitcoin and alts came from the dark web and deep web. Most things like Bitcoin and alts came from the dark web and deep web and were not illegal transactions. Today, they are mainstream. This means you can literally buy them with a smartphone app. But back then, that had little value or meaning. It had little practical value, but it was used for all sorts of things. Services and goods could be bought using Bitcoin. Bitcoin was used primarily for anonymity. And of course, now it has real value, and people advertise that they own Bitcoins. It's really crazy how much Bitcoin has changed. Anyway, like I said, I was talking to some of my older high school friends, and they were talking about Bitcoin. I had heard of Bitcoin, but I didn't know what it was or how it worked. I skipped the really boring parts, got a tour, worked on my parents' desktop, and ended up on the deep web. That's where it all started. I found a few pages where people were discussing random things, but I couldn't find the information I really wanted. These were just normal, unindexed deep web pages where people were anonymously talking nonsense and discussing anti-government stances. From there, I somehow ended up in a dark web marketplace where I could buy drugs, weapons, and all sorts of things. Again, I wasn't looking to shop, I was just looking for information, and I stumbled upon the user forum of this marketplace. If you want to get information, you should not go to the deep web or dark web forums of the marketplace. But I went into the forum and literally posted a question: what is Bitcoin? I embellished my story a bit and said that I had heard the term before and that I wanted to write a report on it for an extracurricular class in high school. That part was a lie, but I guess part of me thought that if I said I was a student and just wanted to do research, I would get more honest information. It is stupid to ask such questions. It's a good question to ask your peers, co-workers, acquaintances, and even Google, but to blurt it out in a forum full of people who are quite familiar with crime and illegal activities is a terrible question. Doing so attracts one of two things. Either they laugh at you and ridicule you, or you get scammed. I suffered the latter. I received several comments and messages from people telling me they would sell me Bitcoin, and all I had to do was give them my credit card details. One man said he would mail you Bitcoins if you sent money through PayPal. Another guy offered to give me 1,000 Bitcoins for free if I gave him my address. I might have been naive, but I wasn't that stupid. I was still on the dark web and I didn't fall for these posts. And luckily, there was an admin who really took pity on me. I actually remember his username, Dark2Dust. He eventually deleted my post and sent me a message asking if I was a troll or an idiot. I replied and honestly explained that I was a 17-year-old boy and I needed information for a report. I told him that it was for my final exam and I thought it would be good to ask here. But he replied like this: "This is not the place for you. Get out, put Tor away, and don't come here again." Before I could answer, he texted me back and said, "Do you really need this information?" And I said I did. Then he sent me a little text about how the blockchain works. He actually explained the basics of the mining algorithm and the existence of cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies are abstract, but they have value. He also predicted that cryptocurrencies will have real value in the near future and said that I should consider investing when I get older, but not now. This guy went out of his way to explain to me how Bitcoin works and how to get it. This is all well and good and I really appreciate it, but what makes this story appalling is the way he concluded his message. He added a footnote when he finished his sentence. P.S. Now that I've explained this, I want you to copy and paste this into a document, save it, and leave the dark web. If I see you here, I'll recognize you as Clark D. from West Virginia. I'll take your kidney as payment. It will fetch a high price on the open market, and given your age, I might buy you an extra one, which is a good idea, right? You can explain the situation. He knew my name and the state I lived in, and I was in a situation where I had to take his threats seriously. So once again I responded. I just said, yes sir, copied the information, and did as he said. In ending this story, I want to thank you if you have heard of Dark2 Dust. I immediately understood the dangers of the dark web. I actually took your advice and invested some money in coins. As you said, it was a great investment. Having said that, I hope you and I never meet there. I've been a deep web user for a while now, and I've looked at various deep sites to see what's out there. There are some interesting people and pages out there, but I wouldn't really recommend getting involved if you don't know what you're doing. I've been doing deep stuff for a while now, and the story I'm going to tell you is about a time in my life when I lost control and did stupid things. I was once a user of the deep web and the dark web. The worst of these dubious activities was dealing with a website that looked a lot like Silk Road. It wasn't Silk Road, but it was clearly trying to be, and as silly as it sounds, its prices were more competitive than others. In retrospect, this should have been a red herring. The big sites had a way of vetting and controlling sellers. They knew who they were working with, and security was definitely part of the pricing structure. But if you're a broke college student drowning in some kind of drug, you don't think too deeply about the security of the seller. Basically, all they think about is whether they have what they want or whether they can afford it. So when I got involved with these sites and these people, it was very clear what I was doing. I knew it was illegal. I knew there was no way to appeal to my distributors, and I knew there was no way to take legal action against the site or the seller. The site had an interesting system. The seller had something called a traffic light system that listed some unexplained user tags up front. Essentially, sellers could show their inventory by color. Green meant full, yellow meant limited, red meant offline and not for sale. If it was green, you could basically send money and get what you wanted. Yellow usually required a message to see if you had what you wanted, and red meant do not contact. This was really clever because you didn't have to incriminate yourself by specifically listing what you had, and it also reduced the need for communication. Just take what you want and move on. During the 2 years I worked on the site, I had regular users to work with. They were reliable and, strangely enough, incredibly polite when I needed to send them a message. It may sound ridiculous, but they usually signed their messages with "Have a nice day" or "Thanks for your work." That's not something I would expect from someone trying to do something illegal. They were the only people I wanted to work with on this site, and they were always there for me. And the whole time I've been doing business with them, they've always been green or yellow. I can't remember a single time in the last 2 years when they went red until the last time I placed an order with them. Usually I would go next door and he would mark it yellow. No big deal. I sent him a message and shortly after that his page turned red. I was a little bit pissed off about that because it was always coming up. And like I said, I was an addict. I went to his page and I sent him a message saying, "Hey, what's up?" Within a few minutes I got a message saying, to put it politely, "Fuck you." Because like I said, he used to be very friendly. And I was like, "You don't want my money anymore." I waited about an hour for him to text me back, but there was no response. I went back a few days later to see if maybe they had some more stock, and I seriously wondered if the seller was having a bad day or if his partner wasn't being polite. When he logged in, he got a message from him. I clicked on the message, and as usual it said, "Send me some money." At first I was a bit cautious, but I was also naive, and I needed to focus on my exam studies. I sent him the money despite my initial hesitation. I wrote him back, told him I had sent the money, and started waiting. I think I messaged him once or twice in the week after that, but he had been offline since our last exchange and had not changed his account from red. About a week after our last exchange, I received a package. The box looked like used garbage. It was in stark contrast to what I was used to. When I opened the box, it lacked most of the security the seller usually has. He usually sends a hidden item with the order, usually a stuffed animal, which I assume serves as both security and filler, but instead the box was filled with packing peanuts and tissue paper. I threw the box on the floor and checked it, thinking it was on schedule. But then I saw a medicine bottle and an envelope that turned out to be a letter. I opened the letter first. "Jimmy's place is closed. Thank you for your work." I was a little angry because now I had to find a new business partner. But at the same time, it wasn't a big problem. At least I had 60 days before it became a problem. Or so I thought until I picked up the bottle and opened it. When I removed the cap, I found a nail inside the bottle. Not a nail clipping, but a nail torn from the finger bed. There was dried blood around the edges of the nail, indicating that they had been forcibly removed. The meaning of the letter was darkened a little more by the fact that Jimmy was outside the tree. And then Jimmy left the tree. I never went back to the scene. I never went back to the deep web drug site. It scared me so much that I stopped all illegal activity. I didn't go to the police. I wanted to. I wanted to tell them that someone might have been killed. But how could I explain it with what I had? I couldn't go to the police station, break a pill bottle full of nails and say, "My drug dealer has been killed." To be precise, he could have taken it out himself. It's unlikely, but it's possible. Anyway, that's my story. Don't mess with the dark web. The deep web is probably good. Don't do drugs. 5 True Red Rooms on the Dark Web. Written by unknown writer Bra0 or Raven Blackhurst. I work for a big company that helps take down malicious websites on the web. I can't reveal my name here, but I've been doing it for years. A few years ago, I discovered a group of red rooms in the deep web called the 5 True Red Rooms. Now, don't go hunting around for them. The real red rooms cannot be accessed through Tor. If you try to find them, they will put a virus on your computer. Some people have told me that this is a scam, but rest assured, it is not. It is very difficult for people who don't understand the concept of 5 real red rooms to try to get in. Let's say you need to know who runs one of them. You can't get in with a tour. You have to know someone or be lucky enough to get a password to get in. You have to prove that you can trust them. And in this case, I gained the trust of the person who helped me host the event. The real red room is a series of 5 rooms, like a door. If I can enter the first red room, I pay 1 Bitcoin to show that I am serious. You will then be allowed to enter the second red room. What can you see on this bad live stream? Well, I'll tell you. This is the first red room. When I clicked on the first screen, a black box appeared asking for a password. I entered the password. It was 4 digits, a hyphen, and my username to access the site. It showed that permission had been granted, and I entered it, and I thought it was very easy. On the first page, there were a lot of black video boxes with titles. Some were titled "Watch Me Scare Kara" or "Tiffany Gets Spooked." I clicked on "Watch Me Scare Kara" first. A man with what looks like a cell phone camera points it at the front door. The man is inside the house and seems to be hiding behind the door, but we can see the furniture in the living room. There is a nice leather sofa and a bookcase. He whispers to me in a foreign language I don't understand. She never shows her face. But suddenly, I hear the doorknob turn and the jingling of keys. A girl with blonde hair and a tanned green nurse's uniform comes in. She is petite and probably in her 20s. Suddenly, she hears a man's voice telling her not to move, and she freezes like a deer in the headlights, screams, and drops the keys. A jet black man in a black ski mask runs towards her with a huge hammer. She throws her arms up and blocks him, screaming, and he hits her twice in the head with the hammer. She falls to the ground, red blood pools on the white carpet, and she is completely unconscious. The man points to the man hiding behind the door and says something like, "It's over," and both cameras turn off. If this was real, it was the most disturbing thing I've ever seen. It didn't look fake at all, and I didn't want to know what happened next. I could only imagine. I didn't even want to click on the second video, but I did. The next video, Tiffany Getting Spooked, was even worse. This time the camera zoomed in on what looked like a park. A woman with brown hair and blue sweatpants was walking laps around a track. A strange-looking man sits in what looks like a car, and we see a crack in the windshield. He's wearing black gloves but doesn't show his face at all. He is laughing and talking a little, and she keeps running. I say to the poor girl, "Run! Get out of that park! You are being followed." I wanted to shout at her, but I realized there was nothing I could do, and she wouldn't hear me anyway. Suddenly, the camera stopped, and I thought the video was over. I was wrong. I was very wrong. The video came back like night vision. It was green and a bit strange, and looked a lot like pine trees. Then I saw what the camera was focused on. A girl is placed in what looks like a boot and is about to scream. Her legs and arms are tied, and a gag is put in her mouth. She looks like the girl in the blue tracksuit from before, and now she is barefoot. All she can see is a black glove and a hairy man. This man looks identical to the man in the earlier video. He is dressed in all black and is combing her hair back. The man with the camera tells her in English to calm down. The woman cries. Then he starts to take the body out of the boat. Sink. The woman hits her head on the trunk lead. He must be joking. She assures him she will be fine. All of a sudden, I felt so sick. She couldn't believe what they were going to do. A man dressed in black in a black ski mask puts her on the ground, and at this point she stops crying and screaming. The camera zooms in on her face. The lights in her eyes go out, and all she can see is darkness. This poor girl has lost all hope. I want to cry, but I hold back my tears. They start to tie her wrists to the bumper of the car. The cameraman is still there. The camera is ready, and another man gets into the car. You can hear the engine roaring, and they are about to pull him behind the engine. The video then cuts out.